Well, howdy everybody. I am going to be taking a little flight tonight around Tulsa. I did this the other night, flew around to a couple of places, but I wanted to head up to North Tulsa and check out a couple places up there, like the zoo, the main international airport there, and then head on over up the river to the town that I grew up in, a little tiny town called Blackburn, Oklahoma, that when I lived there had 100 people in it, probably. So I'm going to be flying again out of Richard Lloyd Jones Jr. Airport in South Tulsa. I'll head up north to the north side and fly over the zoo before I head off west towards Cleveland and Blackburn in that area. I'll fly around there for a few minutes and then I will end up back at Cleveland Municipal Airport where I will land for the night. I don't know how long we'll be flying. Flight time direct from Tulsa to Cleveland is about 15 minutes, but we're going to be making some trips, so it might be half an hour, 45 minutes maybe, depending on how long these load times take. So, last time I flew in the Icon A5. This time I will be flying in a Cessna. Alright, let's get lined up. We're a little on the left side of the runway, but that'll be okay. Let's just go ahead and we will take off. We are once again taking off to the south. We will climb up to about 1,000 feet or so, and then we'll just turn around and head north. We're going to stay fairly low for this flight, between 1,000 and 2,000 feet probably, just to make sure we can see everything. And like always, I'm just going to ignore the air traffic controller, because we're not dealing with realism here. So we're going to take off and we're going to head a little east of downtown. You can see downtown is up there just to our left. The zoo is a little bit northeast of downtown Tulsa. Basically what we need to do is just head towards Tulsa International. The zoo is more or less right across the street from there. When you're at the zoo, you'll see planes landing all of the time. They fly overhead. Usually the smaller private planes and the regional planes on one of the smaller runways. Drop our airspeed just a little bit.
Cessna X-Ray Golf Sierra, did you hear my last transmission?
No, you can quit talking to me. Oh, one thing I wanted to see last time, and I didn't do it, was whether or not the new huge park area is modeled in here. I haven't actually looked on Bing Maps to see what it looks like. But here along the river, they have built a rather large new park area. So we'll just fly along the river for a little bit and see what it looks like. Doesn't look like it. Well, no. So it'll be all along in this area, right here. This, I believe, is the 21st Street Bridge. No. But it'll be right here. This area right here would be the new park. And it looks like it's just an area that's basically been cleared out for where a park would go. So, alright. Now we'll go ahead and head back east a little bit towards Tulsa International, and we'll see what the zoo looks like. So this pond right here, this is the Centennial Park Pond. It's pretty new. I have an old house right there. Right there, just below my tail, is an old house I used to live in, the one that was right in the middle. That house is not there anymore. It has been demolished. Tulsa during the daytime. I'm not entirely sure what that is right there. It's like a quarry of some sort. I don't really know what that is. I really like this city. It's a really pretty city to live in. From from the looks of things, it looks like maybe the zoo is not modeled. We'll get over here a little bit, and we'll be able to tell a little bit easier whether or not it has. Of course, I'm playing on medium settings, so that might also have something to do with it. We'll see. It looks like this area here, just in the middle of all this wooded area, that would be the zoo. That is Tulsa International Airport, home to a large American Airlines base. Right now, they're not modeled on here, but right now the parking lot is full of a lot of American Airlines planes. So it does look like the zoo has been modeled. So let's get down. So we can get down a little closer. I was wondering if maybe there might be some animals in here, but I don't know that they would model the animals in the zoos like they do in some of the wildlife areas. But that is Tulsa Zoo. It's a pretty good sized zoo. Not as big as Oklahoma City's, but still pretty decent. So now let's head west, and we will try to find the river again. We are headed over towards the Cleveland and the Blackburn area. That is the small little town that I grew up in. Out in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. Try to find the river. Because I know more or less that if we follow the river, that we will reach Blackburn. Because my house was about 2 blocks away from the Arkansas River up there. Blackburn is in a little sort of crook in the river. There's a spot where it goes up and it makes this sort of indented in area. I don't know exactly what you call that, but Blackburn sits right in this little crook of the river. Town is just a little bit 15 miles or so northwest of Cleveland, Oklahoma, which is where I actually went to high school. Well, the first year of high school. I went to middle school there before moving to the panhandle of Texas. So we're just going to fly out here, connect with the river, which I think is just off there. In the distance you can see it on the left side of the screen there. So, but while we're on the way, you get to see what is affectionately known around here as green country. It's a very hilly and wooded area of Oklahoma. In the southeast part of the state, you've got the Ouachita Mountains. Out west, that's where you start to get into the areas where you see a lot of mesas, red clay, which is what Oklahoma is famous for. It gets real flat out there. There's not a lot to see out in western Oklahoma once you start to get past Oklahoma City. But up here in northeast Oklahoma, we have lots of really nice rolling hills and wooded areas until you get up towards the Kansas border, where you're getting into the plains area, and it starts to flatten out there as well. Sand Springs, Oklahoma, which is one of the suburbs of Tulsa. Most of the areas around here, the suburbs, it's a lot of you don't know when one city ends and another one begins. Tulsa, Owasso, Jinx, Glenpool, Broken Arrow, Sand Springs, all of those municipal areas have sort of grown into each other, and there's very little space between them. Out there, actually, I don't think that's our destination. We need to get a little further west than that, I think. You gotta get past the river. Yeah, this is not where we're going. We gotta get past there. So, on our way, we will probably end up flying over Keystone Lake. Which last year was the cause of a lot of flood damage. In the spring, we had a ton of rain that came through here, and it flooded a huge area just south of Keystone Lake on into the Tulsa area. I'd spin the camera a little bit more, but one of the things that I can't do in this game, because I'm using a controller and I don't have super fine control over the plane, is I can't let go of the controls. I have to sort of babysit them a lot. But I will try to show you as much of the surrounding area here in between Tulsa and Cleveland as I can. One of the things I wanted to try early on, once I got the game, and I did the first night I started flying, was I wanted to see if you could land on the lake. And there is definitely enough room to take the icon and drop it right on the lake, which was a lot of fun. I've also found out, playing this game, that there are a lot more of these little tiny airports around Tulsa that I had no idea existed. That little stutter was because I'm streaming the game on Shadow. I don't have it installed locally on my hard drive. Over there, just to the left of my wings, you can see where the road crosses the river there. That is Keystone Dam. And then the lake is right here, just past it. But I've been curious to know whether or not this little bitty hole in the wall town that I lived in is available to see, and how it's modeled, if at all. Because a lot of the area around Tulsa is pretty decent. Even on medium settings, you can recognize most everything. It looks pretty good. I mean, I have seen some flaws, some things like the face of the Golden Driller is melting off, which is unfortunate, a little scary, but you know, understandable, because it's not a hand detailed landmark in the game. Howdy to everybody that's in the chat with me. So if you're just joining us, we're flying around northeast Oklahoma. I'm going around trying to find the small town I grew up in, went to middle school. It's out here just a little bit northwest of Tulsa. What I will probably do is I will follow, now that I have found the lake and the highway, I will follow this highway up into the Cleveland area, which is the town that I went to school in. I lived in Blackburn, about 15 minutes outside of Cleveland, and once I get to Cleveland, I'll follow the roads there out to the town that I lived in. Where do you live? Oh, nice. I'm going to pause the game for just a second. I'll be back in about 30 seconds. One of my kids is hollering at me. I need to go see what they need. I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that. Let's get back to flying. So, I have a family who lives in the Kansas City area. They lived in Gardner for a while. We go up and visit them and drive through Independence, Kansas, which is a town my wife and I would love to live in at some point. You can see the many branching paths of Keystone Lake. Yeah, I never lived up in that area. My family moved. We lived in the Texas Panhandle when I went to high school, and right after I graduated, my parents moved up to Gardner and Kansas City for work. My sister went with them. She graduated from there, but I never lived there. So we'll actually be going up to visit them here at Thanksgiving. So it'll be the first time in, I think, a couple of years since we've been back to that area. So if we just sort of stay here between the highway and the river on our right here, we'll get into Cleveland. We'll pass over the airport. I set that as my destination for right now, but we're going to go ahead and fly past Cleveland and then over into the Blackburn area. They have since moved over onto the Missouri side of Kansas City. I can never remember what little suburb they live in, but it's southeast of Kansas City. See, I can remember one time going up there probably right after the year 2000. I went up there for the winter one time, and I noticed driving through Kansas City that you could tell when you hit the border based on the amount of snow that was on the street. Because it seemed like one side had really good road clearing and the other side had terrible road clearing, which seems strange for being in the same city, but I guess technically they are two different cities up there. Yeah, the only thing I remember about the Kansas side of Kansas City is the mall that's over there. Just as you're getting into, I guess, not really the Kansas City area, but just outside of Gardner, that mall up there. Yeah, what sports do you play? Let's give you a little bit more of a view around here. So yeah, this is the Cleveland Airport here is just to the south side of town. You can see we're going to fly straight over Cleveland and then follow that little branch of the river there. There's a road, it's a little 2-lane highway. I should be able to fly myself out there visually just based on the roads. And then we'll fly over my little town, come back to Cleveland, and then we'll land, and I'll call it a night. If you have any place that you want me to fly over in another video, let me know, and I will find it on the map and do a little bit of a flyover for you. I want to see which direction the runways are pointing, so I know which direction to come in from. They do. The entire world is available. You can fly over any city, and as long as there's map data, it will have something on the ground. There's 37,000 airports. I think it's got basically every airport in the world, and including these tiny little ones like this out in the middle of nowhere. So that's really nice. Let's see here. This is the city that I went to middle school and my first year of high school. Cleveland, home of the Tigers. It is not currently on Xbox. It is supposed to be coming to Xbox at some point. So what we are going to do is follow this road that leads out of town and up. You can see where the river kind of curves back. It'll go up north for a while, then it'll curve back again, and in that little curve section, that's where Blackburn sits. I currently have the multiplayer stuff turned off. You can turn it on so that if you're playing with the live weather and things, it will pull anybody else that is playing with the live weather and multiplayer. So you'll see all of them flying around. You can also set it to have real-world air traffic, so all of the actual commercial flights and things that are flying around, you would be able to fly with them as well. You can close off your multiplayer session if you want, so if you just want to fly with friends, you can set up a group and just fly with your friends and go have fun. And in theory, many of these roads, if they were clear enough, I could actually take the plane down and land on them. If I was flying the Icon A5, I could land on the river. I mean, I guess technically you could get into dogfights. There's no planes with weapons, so it would be just you and your friends making the sounds of dogfights, which I guess could be fun. I think this little lake up here just in front of me is the Cleveland Reservoir, or Cleveland Lake, depending on what map you're looking at. And from there, if you turn north, that will take us into Blackburn. I'd love to have like fictional planes and things like, the R-Wing that you could fly around in. That would make for some funny scenarios. So Blackburn should just be right there to our right. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try my best to find Blackburn Road, which is a tiny 1.5 lane road that takes you into Blackburn. It's a town that the official population is supposed to be about 100 people. I think there are probably more horses than there are people in the town. Yeah, so right here, this road is just here. This is the back road into Blackburn. So we'll follow this road here and we'll come in on the back side of Blackburn. You can see there are just a few houses dotting the area. It's very, very thinly populated. I'd be really curious with a lot of fictional ships like that if they could get them scaled correctly, exactly what they would look like flying around places. This town has about 100 people. Cleveland, I think, has 3,500 people, if I remember correctly. So we're going to continue to follow this road here. I'm not sure what that car down there is doing, driving next to the road and not on the road. You'll see there's a bunch of little ponds in this area. This is a lot of farmland, ranch land. There was one place that when I was growing up here, they had an emu farm. And I think that has since disappeared. I would not be surprised if most of Blackburn just isn't here. Should be a cemetery. This should be the cemetery right here. It won't be modeled as a cemetery, but it is a cemetery. The road then turns to the left here, goes just a little bit before turning back right, and okay, there's Blackburn right there, just off to our right. This right here, just in front of the plane, this is a church camp, and that big building actually is supposed to be modeled after like Noah's Ark. Doesn't really look like it on here, but that is what it's supposed to look like. And then here is the tiny little town of Blackburn. It had, when I lived there, it had a single pump gas station, which has closed down since I lived there. So there is nothing there. It has this little red roofed building right here is the Methodist church. The Baptist church is right there that I'm just flying over. And then there's the Arkansas River. And that's it. That is the whole town. Right there. That is Blackburn, Oklahoma. The middle of nowhere. So now let's go ahead and we will head back into Cleveland. Need to head south a little bit here. Yeah, it is a tiny, tiny little town. I loved growing up here, though. If it had high-speed internet, I'd move back there in a heartbeat. I loved that little small town. We moved away on my 15th birthday. Moved out to the Texas Panhandle. The day I turned 15, I was not happy that day. I actually sort of wanted to move, but when the day came, I didn't. And I told my parents, I was like, can I change my mind and can we just stay here? And they didn't go for it. Yeah, we currently live right smack in the middle of Tulsa, and we're hoping in the next year or so to move out to some smaller town in the outskirts of Tulsa. So we're just gonna follow the river a little bit and head back into Cleveland, and we'll go ahead and land there. This will be my first time landing at this airport, so it should be interesting. Once we get close, I will move back into first person. I don't like trying to land the plane in third person. I can't line things up properly, and I never make the runway properly. I think that's Cleveland's airport right over there. See the runway lights, the landing lights out there. So we're going to come in on the north side of town, and then it's not too hard. The first time I tried, I just booted up the game and took off and tried to land, and it didn't go well. Luckily, the game has some really good tutorials that you can try over and over again until you get really comfortable landing, and it guides you through the process of what you need to do, how you sort of need to set the plane up to properly land. My landings are still a little bumpy. I'm not super great at the landing portion, but I can put the plane on the ground. So we're going to come in here on the north side of Cleveland and then make a right turn to head to the airport. There, we'll give you a good shot of the town of Cleveland. I can't see the runway just yet. But I know it is a north-south facing runway. So which direction am I facing? Yeah, I gotta get turned. This is gonna be bumpy. airspeed a bit. I don't know, I really like Oklahoma. That is true, we do have a lot of tornadoes. We are famous for our tornadoes. Oh gosh, I might hit that tree. Oh gosh. Yeah, not the prettiest of landings, but we're down. I'm hoping there's a spot to turn off. There we go. I might be going a little fast. Alright. Well, there we go. Just fancy air. Really fancy air. Really fast air. So, well, thank you very much for joining me on this flight. That was a lot of fun getting to see that tiny little town that I grew up in. What? What is this van doing? Just... okay. Where'd it go? Oh, there he goes. Just driving right through my airplane. So, well, thank you very much. I don't know that any passengers in the plane would have really appreciated that landing very much. But, you know, I got you down in one piece, and that's all that matters, I guess. So, well, thank you very much for joining me. I will definitely be doing more flights in the future, so if there's any place that you would like to see, you want to see me fly over, I will take those requests and I will do those in a future video. Meanwhile, we can watch this truck over here just bounce back and forth on this road, whatever it's doing. And I'll see everybody next time.